When my husband disappeared, I thought my life was over. Jake was my best friend, my rock, and the man I dreamed of growing old with. That day he left home for a routine jog and never came back. The police conducted dozens of search operations, searched the entire neighborhood, questioned neighbors and friends. But nothing, no evidence, no trace. A year later, they closed the case, saying he'd probably left town for personal reasons. But I knew Jake better than anyone. He would never just leave. We were happy, building a house, planning a baby. And then he just disappeared. 10 years went by. I tried to move on with my life, I changed jobs, moved to another city. I learned to smile in response to people's questions and pretend to accept it. Jake's parents had given up hope long ago, even arranging for a death certificate to end the agonizing search. One evening as I was coming home from work, I found a strange package at my door. Unmarked, unsigned. I looked around. No one was there. Inside was a simple box with a note on it. For Emma. Open at home. I knew it could just be a stupid prank, but something inside me snapped. I picked up the box and walked into the house, feeling my heart beat faster and faster. On the kitchen table, I carefully unfolded the paper. Inside was an ordinary notebook and an envelope. On it was written, "I'm sorry for being silent for so long." I froze. The handwriting was painfully familiar. It was Jake's. I ripped open the envelope with shaky hands and unfolded the letter. Emma. If you're reading this letter, it means I've made up my mind after all. I know you thought I was dead or abandoned you. But the truth is, I'm alive. And I'm sorry. Don't come looking for me. You'll be safer if you just forget about me. I can't tell you where I am or why I left. But you should know I didn't mean to. I'm sorry. Jake. The world around me swam. I reread the letter over and over, but the words stayed the same. Jake was alive. But why did he leave? Why didn't he come back? I called my best friend Catherine. You won't believe this. I got a letter from Jake. I exhaled. What? Are you sure? His handwriting, his style. He's alive, Cat. Are you sure about that? Maybe someone's just trying to play on your feelings. I sent Catherine a picture of the letter. She called right back. Damn it, Emma. It's really his handwriting. But where did the letter come from? I don't know. Someone left it at the door. Did you show it to the police? Not yet. I didn't know what to do. For 10 years, I lived with the idea that Jake was gone. And now he was back, but only on paper. The next morning I took the letter and the box and went to the police station. Detective Harper listened to my story doubtfully, but when he saw the letter, he frowned. We have to check the handwriting and the packaging, he said. Do you think it's a forgery? I whispered. I couldn't tell yet. But if it's really from Jake, that changes things. I left the evidence at the station and went home. My thoughts were confused. Why hadn't Jake said anything all these years? What made him leave? The next day, the detective called me. Emma, we have something. There are fingerprints on the box, and they do belong to your husband. I was dizzy. So, he's alive. Apparently. But we need more information. Can you remember if Jake had any enemies? Maybe someone who wanted to hurt him? I've been thinking. Jake was an ordinary man, worked at an electronics store, didn't lead a double life, didn't have shady connections. Or was I wrong? I started going through Jake's old photos and notes. One of them showed him with 3 friends at a picnic. I suddenly remembered that one of them, Paul, had once said a strange thing. Jake was always a good guy. Too bad he got in the wrong business. I hadn't paid attention at the time, but now I couldn't get those words out of my head. I found Paul through social media and texted him. He replied almost immediately. Emma. Long time no see. Is it true about the letter? Is he alive? Yes. Do you know anything? No, but... You know, the year he went missing, Jake changed a lot. He was on edge, said he was in trouble. But he wouldn't admit what kind of trouble. I tried to remember if Jake had ever told me that. But everything had been calm. Then we'd made plans, he hadn't seemed worried. I lay in bed and went over everything I'd learned in my head. If Jake knew of any danger, why hadn't he warned me? Why did he leave alone? I took the notebook out of the box and flipped through the pages. There was a short text on the last few pages. If they find me, it's over. Emma, I've always loved you. I wanted to protect us. But they're already here. A cold fear gripped me. Who was they? What did Jake know? I looked out the window and suddenly noticed a black car parked across the street. 2 men were sitting inside, clearly watching my house. My heart started pounding. I realized that whatever had happened to Jake, his problems weren't over. And now they were affecting me. I kept my eyes on the black car. My heart was pounding, and the only thought pounding in my head was, why are they watching my house? I tried to make out faces, but the distance made it hard. Suddenly one of the men looked right at me. I jerked back and hurried to close the curtains. I realized I couldn't just sit and wait. I called Detective Harper and told him about the car. He told me not to panic and promised to send a patrol. But by the time the police arrived, the car was gone. Just in case, I checked the locks on the windows and doors. My brain frantically searched for a logical explanation. Could it be a coincidence? Or had I just gotten myself worked up after the letter? But my heart told me it was much worse. In the morning, I checked the street again. The car was gone, but the feeling of unease was still there. I decided to contact Paul and ask to meet in person. He agreed, although there was doubt in his voice. We agreed to see each other at the cafe in a couple hours. When I went inside, Paul was already waiting for me at a corner table. He was nervously twirling his cup in his hands and glancing around. Emma, he breathed out when I sat down across from him. I've been thinking about Jake all night. I don't understand how he could just disappear. You said he was in trouble. Are you sure? Yeah. Last time we had a drink together, he mentioned some group of people. Said he'd accidentally seen something and now he was going to be taken out. I didn't take it seriously at the time. I thought he was just joking. A chill ran down my spine. Do you remember who it could have been? No. But he used to go to an old warehouse on the outskirts of town. Said he knew someone who worked there, and sometimes they'd meet up. I wrote down the address. Paul looked scared, like he was trying to figure out if he'd gotten me into something dangerous. We said goodbye and I went outside. On the way home, I decided to drive past the warehouse. The area looked abandoned, half-closed gates, overgrown grass. I stopped the car at a distance and got out. I crept quietly toward the fence, trying not to attract attention. Suddenly there was the rumble of an engine behind me. I turned around, the same black car slowly approached the warehouse. 2 men got out of it and looked around, then disappeared behind the gate. My heart sank. It wasn't paranoia, I was really being followed. I hurried back to my car and drove home, trying not to give away my panic. One question swirled in my head: what were they looking for in the warehouse? I tried to call the detective, but his phone was out of range. Late that night, I got a text message on my phone from an unknown number. Stop looking for him. It's none of your business. I froze. Someone knew I was trying to find Jake. My fingers trembled as I wrote back. Who are you? A minute later came the reply. Just forget about him. If you keep poking around, you'll be in trouble. I felt a lump of fear come to my throat. This was all getting too dangerous. I was trying to figure out what to do next when there was a sharp knock on the door. I went to the peephole, and there was Harper standing on the doorstep. I opened it, trying not to let my panic show. Emma, are you okay? I just got a threat. A text message. Can you show me? I handed him the phone. Harper frowned. It's definitely connected to Jake. It sounds like someone doesn't want you to know the truth. But who? Why? We checked the security footage on your street. There was a car pulling up to the house, but the license plates are smudged with mud, so it's hard to make out anything. I slumped tiredly on the couch. I don't know what's going on. Maybe Jake found out something important. Something that could get him taken down. My thoughts were racing. Jake never shared his problems. But what if he kept quiet on purpose to keep me out of it? I told Harper about the warehouse and that I'd seen a car there. He wrote down the address and promised to check it out. When the detective left, I tried again to remember any details from the past. Suddenly a scene popped into my head one time. Just before he disappeared, Jake had come home with a broken face. I'd been scared, but he'd said he'd just slipped. Maybe it wasn't like that. I started going through old records on my phone and found a picture, Jake with abrasions on his cheek. The date was only a week before he disappeared. Why did I believe it? After all, even the photo showed it was a blow. The next morning, I got a call from Harper. His voice was anxious. "Emma, we checked the warehouse. There are indeed signs of occupancy. We found fresh footprints and the remains of a fire. But the weirdest thing is someone scrawled on the wall. I'm not dead. They're keeping me here." I felt my insides clench. Was Jake there? Alive? But if so, where was he now? Suddenly, the phone vibrated again. A message from the same number. "I warned you. You didn't stop. Now it's going to get worse." I looked out the window in panic. The black car was in front of the house again. Only one thing pounded in my head: I had to find Jake before they got to me. After I saw that black car outside the house, the fear became unbearable. I felt like I was in the crosshairs. Every sound outside the window made me flinch. I closed all the curtains, checked the locks, and turned on the TV to distract myself. But my thoughts kept coming back to Jake. If he was still alive, why wasn't he in touch? Half an hour later, I got a call from Harper. "Emma, we've managed to trace one of the threatening cell phones. It's registered to a Douglas Harper." "Wait, that's your last name?" "Yeah, and this is bloody absurd. Someone's trying to impersonate me or frame me. But I do have one clue: the number was activated at the same warehouse we checked." I didn't know how to react. Everything seemed crazy. Harper promised to investigate further, and I was left alone, trying to make sense of what I'd heard. The next day, I decided to return to the warehouse on my own. Something inside of me was urging me to go there, like Jake was calling me. I grabbed a flashlight and a self-defense knife and drove. When I pulled up, it was quiet. I walked around the area and found a side door that I hadn't noticed the day before. The door was ajar. My heart was pounding, but I ventured in. The inside smelled damp and musty. I walked down the long hallway and stumbled into a room where someone had obviously slept. An old mattress, empty bottles, a pencil stub on the floor. I squatted down and suddenly noticed the small text on the wall. "They took me. Don't look." I ran my fingers over the letters, and suddenly I felt cold metal against the back of my neck. "You shouldn't have come here," came a rough voice. I raised my hand slowly. "I was just looking for my husband." "You found more than you wanted." The man made me turn around. His face was indistinguishable under the hood, but I could see he was armed. "Who are you?" I whispered. "The one who saves you from being killed. You have no idea what you've gotten yourself into. I just want to know the truth. Is Jake alive?" He grinned. "You're still asking. You stirred up a hornet's nest. They already know you were here." Suddenly the door swung open with a bang. Two black-clad men burst into the room. The hooded man shoved me aside and pointed a gun at them. I fell to the floor and crawled to the corner, trying not to move. A gunfight ensued. Bullets whizzed over my head, and I shrank back in fear. When the shots died down, I dared to look. One of the men in black was lying on the floor, and the other was standing over the body of the hooded man. I recognized his voice. "Emma, are you okay?" It was Harper. I nodded frantically. He helped me up and led me outside. I was still out of breath when Harper said quietly. "This guy was on the books, an ex-convict. We had him under surveillance because of his connection to a mercenary group operating in the city. But what did he want with me? He was hunting for anyone who might have been involved in your husband's disappearance. We found records with Jake's last name on them." I tried to make sense of what I was hearing, but it was too confusing. Harper explained that they had recently gotten a tip about a criminal group that could blackmail people with dirt. Jake might have accidentally witnessed or gotten his hands on something that threatened these people. We walked back to the station where Harper showed me the note found on the hooded man. Jake is a witness. Cleanup is mandatory. I felt my legs go under. Harper sat me down and poured me some water. Emma, I know this all seems like a nightmare. But there's a chance that Jake really is alive. If he witnessed something important, he could have been forced to disappear. Why hasn't he contacted me? Maybe he's being held. Or he's hiding to protect you. The next day, I got another message from an unknown number. I did it for you. Don't look. Jay. I showed the message to Harper, but he just shook his head. We'll run the number. But I'm sure it's not Jake himself. Someone is trying to confuse you. I didn't know what to do next. Harper advised me to stay home for now and not respond to threats. I felt trapped. I didn't know who to believe. Later that night, I heard the sound of the engine under the window again. A black car was parked in front of the house, just like before. But this time I saw a figure in the window. It was a man, and he was looking right at me. I squinted, trying to see his face, and suddenly I realized it was Jake. I ran out into the street, but the car sped away and disappeared into the darkness. I screamed his name, but there was only silence. My heart was torn to pieces. Was it him? Or was I just imagining it? When I returned to the house, there was another note lying on the porch. Don't come looking for me. It's not safe for you. I sat down on the step and couldn't hold back the tears. Someone was playing with me, trying to break my consciousness. If it was Jake, why did he leave? And if not, who wants to make me think he's alive? Harper called and said they were checking the cameras outside. But something told me this game was being played by someone who knew how to stay in the shadows. It had been a few days since I'd seen Jake outside my house. Or someone who looked like him. Harper contacted me the next day to tell me that the cameras on the street had captured a black car, but the driver's face was obscured by shadows. The technicians tried to improve the quality of the footage, but the result was blurry. I couldn't shake the thought that it was Jake. What if he really was alive and trying to protect me? I tried to contact Paul, but his phone was disconnected. It was scary. He'd promised to keep me informed if he learned anything new, hadn't he? I grabbed my laptop and went back through all the emails and messages I'd gotten since Jake went missing. Suddenly it hit me, they were all written in the same handwriting, but with slight variations. I zoomed in on the photo and compared the letters. Some of the characters were slightly altered, like someone trying to forge their handwriting. A thought flashed through my mind, what if someone just wanted me to believe that Jake was alive? The phone rang. An unfamiliar number popped up on the screen. I answered, and a muffled voice came through the receiver. You wanted the truth. Meet me at the warehouse in an hour. Who's that? Just come over. I froze. My heart was racing, but I knew there might not be another chance to find out the truth. I texted Harper the address of the warehouse and drove there. When I pulled up, the place looked abandoned. I got out of the car and slowly made my way to the gate. Suddenly, a man stepped out of the shadows. I stopped and he lifted his hood. It was Paul. What are you doing here? I wondered. I found something, he looked worried. Jake's really alive. What? Where is he? Shoo, Paul looked around. I got a message from him. He said he was in trouble and that he was forced to disappear. I couldn't believe my ears. Why didn't you tell me sooner? I was afraid I was being followed. But Jake asked me to tell you one thing, don't trust Harper. I froze. Why? I don't know. But Jake is sure the detective is involved in his disappearance. My thoughts jumbled. Harper always seemed trustworthy and willing to help. Why is Jake warning me about him? Paul continued. Jake said he had proof. They are hidden in his parents' old house. He asked me to get them as soon as possible. I nodded. We agreed to meet at the location in an hour. I got into the car and drove to that very house. On the way, I got another call from Harper. Emma, where are you? We found something. I'm sorry, "Detective, I can't talk right now." "Emma, don't go to the warehouse. It's a trap." I froze. Why did he know about the warehouse? I didn't have time to tell him. "How did you know?" Harper was silent for a second. "Just come home, it's dangerous." I disconnected the call and tried to calm down. So Paul was right, Harper was following me and knew about my meeting. But if it was a trap, why had he warned me? When I pulled up to Jake's parents' house, Paul's car was already there. I got out and walked over to him. "Did you find something?" he asked. "No, but Harper called. He knows about the warehouse." "Shit. So he's really connected to it." We walked around the house and went in through the back door. It was dark and dusty inside. The house had been standing abandoned for a long time. Paul said Jake had mentioned a stash in the basement. We went down the creaky stairs. There was indeed an old box in the corner of the basement. I lifted the lid and inside I found a sealed envelope with an inscription. "If you're reading this, it means I didn't make it back in time." I unfolded the letter. "Emma, if you found this letter, it means they've come for me. I stumbled upon a corruption scheme that leads to Detective Harper himself. He works for a criminal group, and when I happened to find out about the deal, they decided to take me out. I couldn't tell you, fearing for your life. I left so they wouldn't hurt you." Later that night, I heard the sound of the engine under the window again. A black car was parked in front of the house, just like before. But this time I saw a figure in the window. It was a man, and he was looking right at me. I squinted, trying to see his face, and suddenly I realized it was Jake. I ran out into the street, but the car sped away and disappeared into the darkness. I screamed his name, but there was only silence. My heart was torn to pieces. Was it him? Or was I just imagining it? When I returned to the house, there was another note lying on the porch. "Don't come looking for me. It's not safe for you." I sat down on the step and couldn't hold back the tears. Someone was playing with me, trying to break my consciousness. If it was Jake, why did he leave? And if not, who wants to make me you betrayed him? Harper pulled out his gun and pointed it at Paul. "She needs to know the truth before you kill her. You and your friends decided to take Jake out when he found out about your case." I stared at both of them in horror, not knowing who to believe. Harper and Paul stared at each other, ready to shoot at any moment. "Emma, go away," Harper said. "That psycho killed your husband." "You're lying," Paul shouted. "Jake trusted me. And you wanted him gone so you could close the case." My mind raced with contradictions. I stood between them, realizing that one mistake could cost me my life. I stood between Harper and Paul, feeling the tension hang in the air. Harper had his gun pointed at Paul, and he never took his eyes off the detective. I knew that one wrong move could spell disaster. "Emma," Harper spoke calmly, but there was tension in his voice. "You have to understand, Paul got Jake involved in a dirty business. He used him to blackmail me. By the time Jake realized who he was messing with, it was too late." "You're lying." Paul stepped forward. "You were at the scene of that deal. You knew if the truth came out, your career would be over." I stared at both of them, not knowing who to believe. Jake's letter said one thing, but Paul and Harper's words contradicted each other. "Emma," Harper's voice softened. "He's turning everything upside down. I knew Jake for years, we worked together before he disappeared. When he found out about the criminal group, Paul was already controlling him. Jake tried to get out of the game, but Paul made him disappear." Paul snorted. "You've been lying to her this whole time. You wanted to cover your tracks so your name wouldn't come up." Suddenly Paul shoved me sharply to the side and lunged at Harper. A shot rang out, and I cried out. The bullet hit the ceiling, and Paul knocked Harper to the ground. They clutched at each other on the floor, struggling for weapons. At that moment I noticed a notebook falling out of Harper's pocket on the floor. I picked it up with trembling hands and flipped through the pages. It was an observation log, where the detective had written down everything about Jake's disappearance. On the last page it said, "Paul is a key figure. Liaison to a criminal group. Blackmailed Jake." I turned around and saw Paul snatch the gun out of Harper's hands and rise to his feet. His face was twisted with rage. "Emma," Harper wheezed, holding his shoulder, blood oozing from it. "Don't believe him." Paul came over to me and grabbed my arm. "Come on. We're getting out of here. That cop's just waiting to take you out." "I'm not going anywhere until I hear the truth," I screamed. Paul froze for a second, then spoke more softly. "Okay. You want to know the truth?" Jake was a naive idiot. He found out too much and tried to escape. I helped him hide, but when Harper tracked us down, Jake realized there was no turning back. He asked me to fake his death. My head was spinning. Fake it? Yeah. He left a letter and did everything he could to make you believe he was gone. But Harper kept hunting because he knew if Jake made contact, all his dirt would come out. "You're lying," Harper shouted, trying to get up. "You killed him." Paul grinned. "Where's the body? Why didn't you find it?" I realized that one of them was lying. But who should I believe? Suddenly a text message came to my phone. I carefully took it out and read it. "He's alive. Check the warehouse down south." The message was from the same number as before. I showed it to both of them. Harper looked dumbfounded. "Who sent this?" he whispered. "That's none of your concern," Paul shouted and dragged me toward the exit again. At that moment the door burst open with a bang, and the cops rushed in. Harper raised his hands. "Don't shoot. It's Paul, it's his fault." Paul, seeing the cops surrounding him, dropped the gun to the floor and raised his hands. One of the cops came up to me and gently led me outside. I was standing on the porch when Harper came up to me. "Are you okay?" "I don't know," I lowered my head. "Why did Jake say not to trust you?" "Because Paul has been misleading him this whole time. He threatened Jake with exposure and got him to go into hiding." Later at the station, Harper told me they got a tip about a stash house in the South warehouse. When the cops got there, they found a hidden room. Inside was Jake. Alive, but exhausted and scared. I couldn't believe it when I saw him. He rushed over to me and hugged me, and I burst into tears right on his shoulder. "You're alive," I sobbed. "I'm sorry, Emma. I wanted to protect you. Paul threatened that if I told the truth, he'd get to you." Harper walked over and said quietly. "We figured it out. Paul organized the blackmail and used Jake as a pawn. Now he's going to answer for everything." I stood in the hallway of the police station, holding Jake close to me. Things were finally coming to a head. The truth had come out, and most importantly, he was alive. Paul did time for blackmail, kidnapping and threats. Harper was exonerated, as he was really doing his investigation and trying to get to the truth. Jake came home after treatment and we started a new life from scratch. One night I asked him, "Why didn't you come back right away?" "I was afraid they would find you. Paul threatened that if I made contact, you'd get hurt." "It's all behind me now," I pressed myself against him. "Sometimes in the night I think there's a black car outside and someone's watching our house. But every time I step out on the porch, all I see is an empty street and stars in the dark sky." Now I knew one thing: the truth can be scary, but sometimes it's the only way to escape. Some secrets can ruin a life. But it's better to know the truth than to live in deception.